Cambodia's ASEAN Chairmanship is a very hot and burning topic that we need to discuss to galvanize ideas, inputs, to ensure a smooth preparation for Cambodia's role as the ASEAN Chair.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Asian Vision Dialogue. With me, Sothearoth, the host of today's program. Asian Vision Dialogue is created aiming at gathering international and regional IO and IE scholars to comprehensively discuss about international and regional issues ranging from politics, economics, and traditional and non-traditional security issues that focus on ASEAN, Cambodia, and the Mekong sub-region. Today's discussion is about Cambodia's ASEAN Chairmanship in 2022, challenges and priority. And we have Dr. Chheang Vannarith, the President of Asian Vision Institute or AVI, and Dr. Cheunboran Chanborey, the Strategic Advisor of AVI. So welcome Dr. Vannarith and Dr. Borey. Dr. Vannarith and Dr. Borey, as we know that on the 28th October 2021, last month, Brunei Darussalam have handed over the ASEAN Chairmanship for Cambodia for the whole year of 2022 on the margin of the 38 and 39 ASEAN Summit and related summit. And we know that this is the third time that Cambodian had got this kind of duty. However, as you know that ASEAN region have moved or arrived at a critical juncture. So this duty is not as easy or as usual as the previous chairmanship. So in this regard, I would like to pose some questions regarding the Cambodian priority and challenges and our preparation for the 2022. So for the 2022, what is Cambodia priority and what should be the main focus agenda for Cambodia as a chair in 2022, Dr. Borey?
Thank you, Sothearoth, for having me on again, especially on the first episode of the Asian Vision Dialogue. Yes, indeed, Cambodia's ASEAN Chairmanship is a very hot and burning topic that we need to discuss to galvanize ideas, inputs, to ensure a smooth preparation for Cambodia's role as the ASEAN Chair next year. This is the third time, as you have mentioned earlier on, that Cambodia assumed this important role. The first and second time being in 2002 and 2012, respectively. It is an honor, but of course, a very heavy burden for Cambodia and the whole population because we are facing unprecedented challenges. And those unprecedented challenges are being, number one, the ravages generated by COVID-19 and social economic fallout that the pandemic has generated. Number two, the international system, especially multilateralism and global governance, have been under attack due to the rise of protectionism, unilateralism, and populism in the region and across the globe. Last but not least, we are facing intensifying rivalry among major powers that have created a lot of pressure for the region, for ASEAN, and its member states as a whole. For such critical context, I think Cambodia, as the upcoming chair, try to conceptualize and plan a proper roadmap on how to address those challenges. And that's why Cambodia has proposed the theme for the upcoming ASEAN Chairmanship, ASEAN Act, or addressing challenges together. I think based on the theme, I think the key priorities that Cambodia will be addressing include Number one, galvanizing regional collective actions and response to COVID-19, and to promote, post-pandemic socio-economic recovery. Number two, strengthening multilateralism and the rules-based regional orders in order to prepare our region to address the existing and emerging regional and global challenges, both traditional and non-traditional security issues. Number three, I believe that further promoting ASEAN community building, especially in line with the ASEAN Community Vision 2025, would be one of the key priorities. And of course, we need to plan for the post-2025 vision on ASEAN community building process as well. This is a very important role and responsibility because ASEAN has been building a community that is based on three main pillars. Economic pillar, and I think on the economic pillar, Cambodia might be prioritizing on the further promoting the connectivity projects, particularly the Master Plan of ASEAN Connectivity 2025, the narrowing of development gaps between ASEAN member states through the implementation of the IAI Work Plan 4, or the Initiative for ASEAN Integration Work Plan 4, which was adopted 2 years ago. Preparing the region to address, digitalization, industrialized revolution 4.0 might be key priorities in the ASEAN economic community building process. I think the region will also promote, a rules-based trading system, particularly with the entry into force of ASEAN, the Regional Economic Comprehensive Partnership, which will enter into force later next year. So those are the priorities. From social cultural pillar, I believe that Cambodia will be working very hard to promote ASEAN values and norms, especially the ASEAN way, consensus, informality, less rule-based, constructive engagement, so on and so forth, so that we can further promote our unity, relevance, and resilience as a community. ASEAN identity, especially shared identity, will be another area of focus as the chair of ASEAN next year. And we have to work to make sure that the population in Southeast Asia can have a sense of belonging, a sense of shared identity, or the so-called ASEAN-ness, so that they can be part of the ASEAN community building process. Last but not least, on the political and security pillar, I believe Cambodia will be focusing on how to promote unity and centrality and political cooperation to ensure that we can maintain peace, stability, and prosperity in the region. We can ensure, ASEAN centrality and ASEAN-led mechanisms in the evolving regional architecture in the Asia-Pacific. Yes, of course, we have to work with ASEAN external partners, especially the dialogue partners of ASEAN, to ensure a future of the region which is more peaceful, more prosperous, and more a win-win, not only ASEAN and its member states, but also other dialogue partners.
Thank you, Dr. Borey. So, Dr. Vannarith, besides the priority and challenges that described by Dr. Borey at the moment, what should be, the additional or like one of the most further prioritized area that Cambodians should focus?
Thank you. Next year will be a very critical year because we have 3 Southeast Asian countries that host important international events. Indonesia will be the chair of Group 20, G20. Thailand will be the chair of APEC, Asia Pacific Cooperation, and Cambodia will be the chair of ASEAN. So in this context of kind of post-pandemic recovery, I think all these three platforms will pay closely attention to the recovery process to ensure that it is inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. Looking from geopolitical dimension, I think the South China Sea and the political crisis in Myanmar will kind of dominate the agenda of ASEAN summit next year, because next year will be 20th anniversary of the declaration of the Code of Conduct, DOC, and negotiation process on the Code of Conduct remains uncertain whether we can conclude it by the end of next year. So that is something that we need to keep track, and I think Cambodia is interested in pushing it, the negotiation on COC. If it can conclude by the end of next year, it will be a critical milestone for the Cambodia Chairmanship, for ASEAN and China relation, and for the South China Sea issue. But the South China Sea situation is ebb and flows over the time, depend on behavior of the claimant states and some extra regional powers, how they engage in this issue. So it's highly volatile in a way, South China Sea. Looking at the Myanmar issues, I think because of the lack of implementation of the 5-point consensus issued by ASEAN leaders, I think next year we'll need to enforce this in effective way, and also find ways to bring different stakeholders in Myanmar to negotiation table. So the best scenario next year is the capacity of ASEAN and Cambodia as a chair to facilitate this kind of political dialogue, inclusive political dialogue. We cannot be a mediator, we can be a facilitator, right? Because mediation diplomacy is much more complicated than facilitation diplomacy. So what ASEAN can do is to facilitate dialogue, to facilitate a kind of certain level of trust between different stakeholders so that they can talk. So that is the kind of ultimate goal that we can achieve with regards to Myanmar. And it is complex, and it's going to be a long-term issues that we need to work together to address the Myanmar. And the involvement of the major power in Myanmar further complicate the situation. So that is, I think, the kind of hot potatoes, hot issues that can potentially divide ASEAN into different camps, right? And that is a critical risk and a testing moment for ASEAN next year. Whether ASEAN is really resilient, whether ASEAN is able to navigate through all these differences and stay united together, or ASEAN will be further separated and look for different alternatives, right? So that is a critical time, and I hope that Cambodia Chair can somehow navigate through this uncharted water, very risky situation. So that is I think the challenges that Cambodia will face next year.
Linking to the Myanmar issue, what have ASEAN done so far with regarding to the resolving process in the Myanmar context? And from your perspective, what have Brunei Darussalam, the current special envoy for the ASEAN Chair, done so far?
Well, the Myanmar political crisis has once again consumed ASEAN's time and energy, and it is not an easy task at all for ASEAN and its member state. Although the violence has subsided since May, the ingredients for confrontation, especially civil war, are there because of four main reasons. Number one, the military junta, the Tatmadaw, has not shown any signs of a compromise and flexibility vis-a-vis crackdowns on the protesters. Number two, the protests and even armed resistance have grown even stronger and stronger day by day. Number three, I think it's very dangerous as well because of the creation of the government in exile, the National Unity Government or NUG, with an express interest in create their own armed forces in order to resist again the military junta in the country. Last but not least, as Dr. Chheang Vannarith has alluded to earlier on, that external powers have already engaged in the Myanmar crisis, including their engagements with the armed insurgencies. This is a dangerous direction that might, force Myanmar into a civil war. I would like to add one more important dimension of the political crisis in Myanmar, the ethnic politics. As we all know, Myanmar is an ethnically diverse nation with more than 100 ethnic groups. If I'm not wrong, 139 ethnic groups recognized by the Myanmar authorities. And some ethnic groups, including 6 main ethnic groups, have their own armed forces. And those 6 ethnic groups have already declared their armed resistance against the military junta. So this is what Myanmar is heading to. Now, because of the complex situation in Myanmar, ASEAN is in a very difficult position to engage constructively on the issue. So far, ASEAN leaders adopted the 5-point consensus during their meeting in April in Jakarta. The 5-point consensus also includes the appointment of the special envoy of the ASEAN Chair. And during the ASEAN ministerial meeting in August, if I'm not mistaken, ASEAN foreign ministers appointed Foreign Policy 2 of Brunei Darussalam as the special envoy of ASEAN. But so far, the special envoy, His Excellency Erywan Yusof, has yet to visit Myanmar because of difficulties from logistic and political points of view. And I'm sure that His Excellency Erywan will not pay any visit in his capacity as the special envoy of the ASEAN Chair in Myanmar during the Brunei's ASEAN Chairmanship. Technically, Brunei is still the chair of ASEAN, although Cambodia has been already handed over the chairmanship because Cambodia will assume officially the ASEAN chairmanship on the 1st of January next year. And I think it will be a challenging task for Cambodia next year as the chair of ASEAN because of the complexities and challenges that I have alluded to earlier on. Nevertheless, I think Cambodia have no choice but to fulfill the responsibility and duty as the chair of ASEAN, especially in appointing her own special envoy to Myanmar. And I believe that based on Brunei's practice, His Excellency Prasekon might be the special envoy of the chair of ASEAN. And I think the special envoy will have to start working on the first visit to open, new gateway for ASEAN engagement in the Myanmar political crisis. It's not easy, but I think Cambodia will have to focus on three main issues as the chair of ASEAN, and as the and on the in the capacity as the special envoy of the ASEAN Chair to Myanmar. And the three issues include: number one, we need to help the Myanmar, all parties in the Myanmar crisis, to create a conducive environment for political dialogue. And of course, we need to build a political trust among those parties, because political trust is key for political dialogue and for peace and stability in the country. And number two, I think we need to ensure a peaceful settlement mechanisms, which is based on win-win outcome. We cannot exclude any key players in the Myanmar crisis if we want to have a constructive, a peaceful settlement of the crisis over there. And last but not least, I believe that we need to promote ASEAN's engagement in helping Myanmar people from a humanitarian crisis, being political crisis, or crisis generated by COVID-19 and the social-economic fallout. And I think AHA Center might be playing very important role in providing humanitarian assistance to the victims of both political crisis and socio-economic crisis in Myanmar. And in this regard, I think we have to work with external partners, especially full dialogue partners of ASEAN, to ensure a smooth and effective provision of humanitarian assistance to Myanmar.
Dr. Vannarith, as mentioned by Dr. Borey, that political trust is one of the most important agenda for Cambodian chairmanship in 2022. Just in case Cambodia has been agreed by all the ASEAN member states and assigned to be the special envoy for the ASEAN Chair in 2022, what should be the most prioritized scenario for Cambodia in order to promote the political trust between Cambodia and the Myanmar leader, and as well the leaders, concerned leaders in Myanmar itself? And from your perspective, what should be the role for Cambodia in dealing with this the issue in Myanmar? What should be the prioritized scenario for Cambodia in order to succeed a fruitful ASEAN chairmanship in 2022, as well as a successful special envoy for the ASEAN Chair in dealing with the Myanmar issue? Dr. Vannarith?
In terms of trust building, we need to have different layers. First, we need to build trust within ASEAN itself. So, observing the past political episode within ASEAN, we can see the kind of division, political division between some ASEAN member states. So that's something that we need to build ASEAN consensus and unity on Myanmar. So Cambodia Chair need to have quiet diplomacy or shuttle diplomacy with some key member state in Southeast Asia, right? So that is something that first we need to do. Second layer is trust between ASEAN and Myanmar, ASEAN 9 and Myanmar, because the bridge of trust have been somehow disrupted, undermined by the different political agenda and kind of vision as well between ASEAN 9, several ASEAN members and Myanmar. So we need to restore this kind of trust between ASEAN 9 and Myanmar, which is quite challenging, taking into consideration the evolving political dynamics in Myanmar that try to marginalize, sideline, or even kind of abolish the main opposition party leaders, Aung San Suu Kyi and the team the leadership. It's one of the another layer of complexity in trust building. So third layer is between ASEAN and the dialogue partners, right? Dialogue partner referring to some key actors like China, United States, or Japan, Russia, to some extent India and Australia, in providing a kind of comprehensive solution to Myanmar issue, so that ASEAN can utilize their dialogue partnership with these major key actors to provide solution to Myanmar. And the last layer of trust building is between the Myanmar themselves, different political factions. We need to bring also the ethnic armed groups into the negotiation table. So at least three political factions need to be included: the military, the civilian political party, the League of Democracy, led by Aung San Suu Kyi, and of course the ethnic armed groups. So this group are the key political stakeholders that we need to bring to the table. So how to build trust between these three main groups? We have tried, but not so successful over the past 10 years. We have tried different tracks, actually, track 1, track 1.5, and track 2, even track 3 level. So those are and of course the Foreign Minister will be the special envoy if the other ASEAN member states agree. And his role, he can fulfill all these 4 layers of trust buildings, right? But when it comes to the highest level of political consensus, the Prime Minister need to play a critical role. So that is some of the key roadmap or pathway for Cambodia chairmanship next year in dealing with the Myanmar issue.
Yep. If I may, I would like to add on what Dr. Vannarith has mentioned, that in order to address the Myanmar political crisis, sometimes we have to be pragmatic, based on reality on the ground. And indeed, the wheel of history evolves according to choices that we make. And more often than not, the choices are not easy at all. And, with wrong choices, we might repeat past atrocities. So we need to be on full alert to prevent the history to repeat itself. Now, the reality in Myanmar is that the military junta, the Tatmadaw, has always been one of the most important political forces in the country. And it remains one of the most important political forces in Myanmar. So any credible political process needs to involve the military junta, the Tatmadaw. And the lesson that we should draw as well from the recent fiasco in Afghanistan is that the political process needs to be Myanmar-owned and Myanmar-led. The international community, including ASEAN, has its role to play, but cannot replace the roles of all parties concerned in the Myanmar political crisis. So I think we all, the international community, should give a chance to peace in Myanmar by acknowledging this reality, by providing necessary support so that an inclusive, Myanmar-led, Myanmar-owned political process can be taken place. And the international community should help ASEAN, especially Cambodia as the chair of ASEAN next year, to fulfill these responsibilities as well. Let's hope for the best, but it is a challenging task. We have to work together to give a peace in Myanmar a chance.
So the last question, by focusing on an international research institution or what we call think tanks, what should be the role for Cambodian think tanks in order to help the government to resolve the crisis in Myanmar, or like act as the mediator or a good special envoy for Myanmar?
The role of track 2 or even track 1.5 become more crucial when track 1 diplomacy fail. So we have seen significant kind of setbacks in the track 1 diplomacy. So this is the kind of opportunity for track 1.5 and track 2 to play their role. The think tank community in Cambodia and across the region have been paying close attention to Myanmar. Different platforms and different roundtables, mainly closed door discussion among think tankers on Myanmar, because think tankers, they are not constrained by political agenda, and they tend to express their view frankly and openly. So this frank and open discussion promote mutual understanding and promote and help us to understand the reality in Myanmar. If you look at Myanmar issue from a political lens, then we will be blind by the political agenda. But if you look at it from a technical, theoretical, even conceptual, historical perspective, then we can see it in another picture, broader picture. So that is the role of think tank that can contribute to track 1, because track 1 cannot say much. Sometimes they know the roadmap, they know what should be done, but due to a political constraint, they cannot express their view. But the think tank have much space, freedom to express their view. So this is a critical space. I call it a critical space for mutual understanding and, of course, trust building.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Vannarith and Dr. Borey, for sharing your time participating in the Asian Vision Dialogue first episode. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to an end of the Asian Vision Dialogue first episode. Thank you and see you again in the next episode.